Yo, what is good? It's the Scaladallo, and I'm here with the much anticipated UFC 220 analysis and predictions. We have a really decent main card. I'm gonna do all 5 fights, starting with the first one: Thomas Almeida versus Rob Font at bantamweight. Now, this is a really good matchup. I expect a really good striking battle in this fight. Both fighters, they're coming off losses, so they're looking to get that win. Both fighters are really good strikers. You have Thomas Almeida. He has that traditional Muay Thai style. Very sharp striking, very good use of his knees as well. And you have Rob Font, who is a really good kickboxer as well. He has good technique, good footwork as well, pinpoint striking accuracy. So yeah, this is gonna be a really good fight. It's a really good matchup. Both have been caught, in their last fight, but I think Rob Font has the better striking defense. Thomas Almeida, he's a very aggressive striker, but he leaves himself open a lot, and that's going to be dangerous against Rob Font because Rob Font does have that ability to knock him out. As does Thomas Almeida. Thomas Almeida, you know, he's aggressive and that works to his advantage more times than not. So both fighters, they have to be weary of their opponent's weapons. I think Thomas Almeida is the more diverse striker, with his Muay Thai background. I think he has good use of his kicks and his knees as well. I think Rob Font is the more well-rounded fighter, though. I think he has the ability to land a takedown in this fight, even though Thomas Almeida has really good takedown defense. I think Rob Font should look to mix in the takedowns, and make this a MMA match rather than just a pure striking match. This is a close fight. But for my prediction, I'm gonna go with Thomas Almeida. I think eventually he'll be able to put together some combinations, keep Rob Font on the back foot a little bit. I think he'll be able to. I think he'll win. He can get the knockout, but I'm gonna say by decision. I'm gonna say Thomas Almeida by decision. I predict this fight to take place mainly on the feet. He'll defend any takedowns that Rob Font attempts, and he'll win the striking match. The next fight we got is Gian Vellante versus Francimar Barroso. Gian Vellante recently dropped out of the top 15, looking to get back in the win column. And Francimar Barroso looking to put together a good win streak himself. And Gian Vellante, he's a brawler basically. He's a strong, athletic fighter, brawler. He's strong. He's powerful, but he lacks IQ. He lacks IQ in his fighting style. He leaves himself open a lot. He takes a lot of damage, way more damage than he needs to. He's liable to just revert to a brawl, which ends up costing him in fights because he gets overzealous and just brawls. When Francimar Barroso, he's a pretty genuinely well-rounded fighter. I think in this fight he'll probably look to take the fight to the ground mostly. He averaged about 2.5 takedowns per fight. I think he'll probably look to take the fight to the ground. Gian Vellante has a really good takedown defense at 82%. But yeah, I think Francimar Barroso will take this fight. I think he's a more well-rounded fighter. I think he's a smarter fighter, and I think he'll capitalize on Gian Vellante's mistakes. He just has to not engage in a brawl with Gian Vellante. He has to fight technically and just mix it up, and I think he'll definitely win a unanimous decision in this fight. Now the third fight, really good matchup here. We got Calvin Kattar versus Shane Burgos. This is definitely a slept-on fight. Calvin Kattar, he surprised a lot of folks with his short notice win over Andre Fili. That surprised a lot of people. You have Shane Burgos, who's making definite waves at 145. I think he's like 3-0 in the UFC. So he'll be looking to get this win and eventually get a top 15 opponent. I think both of these fighters are right there on the cusp of the top 15 at featherweight. And this is a big opportunity on the main card for either one of them to make a statement. and then getting them rankings. Yeah, from what I seen from Calvin Kattar's first fight, he has a really good technical striking because he was able to outstrike Andre Fili, and that was very impressive of him to do. You know, he started slow in the first round, but then the second and third round he got his timing down, and he was able to just outstrike Andre Fili and get the better of him. And Shane Burgos, in his fight, he's shown incredible takedown defense, at 93%, 93, 94%. Incredible takedown defense and really good boxing skills. You know, incredibly tough, incredibly good boxing. So yeah, in this fight, I definitely expect a stand-up fight in this fight. I could see it going either way, but I have to go with Shane Burgos in this fight. I've seen more Shane Burgos, and I think in a stand-up fight, I'll favor him in a stand-up fight. But Calvin Kattar is extremely game as well, and I could see this fight going either way as well, but I'm going to go with Shane Burgos. Now for the co-main event, we got Daniel Cormier versus Volcom Ozdemir. Volkan Ozdemir, man, he's had an incredible 2017. Man. In 1 year, he's fighting for the title already. Came in short notice, eked out the decision against Ovince Prude, and he knocked out Misha Serkinov and then knocked out Jimmy Manuwa in devastating fashion. Like, he has an incredible amount of power from short distance. The punch that he knocked out Misha Serkinov with, like, it was like a 1-inch punch. That very small amount of distance flatlined him. Daniel Cormier, he's gonna have to be wary of that. I think Volkan Ozdemir, in his only loss to the fight, he got totally out grappled in his against a wrestler. He got totally out grappled, just got drained of his energy in that fight, and I'm sure Daniel Cormier is aware of that, and he's gonna try to do the same thing. Daniel Cormier can strike with Volkan Ozdemir. He has an incredible tough chin. Despite his knockout against John Jones, he has an incredible chin. He took 2 onslaughts from Anthony Johnson, so he can definitely take a punch. I think he can definitely strike with Volkan Ozdemir, but he has to be careful in that clinch because Volkan is very powerful in that clinch. As is Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier does some of his best work in the clinch as well, but he has to be wary because Volkan Ozdemir has a lot of power from that position. Yeah, as far as the wrestling, it should be a huge wrestling discrepancy in this fight. Daniel Cormier should have his way with Volkan Ozdemir as far as wrestling goes and as far as the whole grappling game goes. So I think as far as Daniel Cormier, I think he takes this fight relatively easy as long as he just wrestles and doesn't give Volkan too many chances standing. I think Daniel Cormier, if he just wears him down with his wrestling, lays on him, beats on him, I think he'll get the third round submission. I think he'll get like a rear naked choke in the third round of this fight after Volkan is just drained of his energy and just beat up. But Volkan, I think he's a real powerful striker. He has a good amount of aggression. So he does have a chance in this fight. He can knock Daniel Cormier out. You can't count him out on that, but I think this is Daniel Cormier's fight to lose. Now for the main event. Great matchup, very important fight for this heavyweight division. You have Stipe Miocic versus Francis Ngannou. These two fighters, they have quite a few common opponents. They both knocked out Andre Arlovski and Alistair Overeem. And they both did it in dominant fashion. I mean, Stipe Miocic, he had to come back a little bit versus Alistair Overeem, but he still decisively won that fight. Yeah, this is an important fight for the heavyweight division because if Stipe defends this title, that would give him the most title defenses in heavyweight history, and I think that will make him the greatest UFC heavyweight, period. Because that's been unprecedented. And if Francis wins, that's gonna be a whole new king at heavyweight, and if Francis can take Stipe out, it's gonna be hard to see who can beat him. In this heavyweight division, there's a few prospects coming up, but as far as the contenders now, it's gonna be hard to see who can beat him. Okay, let's break this down. Striking wise, Stipe, great striker, really good technique. Really good technique, really good power. I think his jab is gonna be the most effective technique he uses standing up in his fight. In Francis Ngannou's fight versus Curtis Blaydes, he was getting caught with that jab quite a bit. So we'll see if Stipe tries to utilize that. And Francis Ngannou, his striking, I think a lot of people they underrate his technique. Because he shows so much overwhelming power in his fights that they neglect his technique. He has really good patience standing up. He doesn't rush. He's extremely patient. And he has deadly uppercuts in a incredible reach. He has an 83-inch reach. So I think his opponents sometimes they lean towards the side thinking they're safe, and then he scoops them up with that uppercut. So Stipe is definitely gonna have to be wary of that. Grappling wise, Stipe Miocic, we all know he's a former Division I wrestler. He should be the better wrestler in this fight. But Francis Ngannou, he does have good takedown defense, and he has underrated grappling. I think he has more submission wins than Stipe does, and he in his Curtis Blaydes fight, he showed the ability to get back up to his feet, after being taken down. So I think Francis, he won't be out of his element if Stipe is able to take him to the ground. So yeah, I think the key to victory for Stipe is to use his jab. I think he shouldn't force any takedowns. I think he should use his jab, use his kicks, and eventually, I think he should take it slow. Allow Francis to become frustrated and start being aggressive, because Francis he's aggressive, but mainly he's aggressive on the counter. I think I think Stipe should want Francis to lead the fight a little bit, especially in the beginning round. Then I think finding his takedowns will be much easier instead of just trying to force him, because Francis is gonna be ready for that. So yeah, I think Stipe should kick his leg, because Francis, he has a mainly boxing oriented style. He doesn't kick a lot. He's capable of kicking, but he doesn't kick very much. I don't see him kicking a lot in this fight because he's aware of the takedown threat. So yeah, I think Stipe should want to use his jab, use his kicks, frustrate Francis, and not overcommit on his punches. Stipe in his last couple fights, he's been coming really aggressive, and I don't think he want to do that against Francis, because Francis is gonna catch him if Stipe comes aggressive like he did against Junior Dos Santos. Francis is gonna knock him out if he comes that aggressive. I think he needs to maintain distance, use that jab, use that leg kick, and then work from there. I think Francis, he just needs to counter aggressively, especially if Stipe does come aggressive. Because I don't know how it's interesting how Stipe will approach this fight. Because if he does come aggressive, I think Francis Ngannou, he need to just do what he has done in his last fight, is just wait for him, measure the distance, then counter viciously. He needs to defend the takedown if there is any. If he goes into the clinch, he wants to disengage from the clinch. Yeah, and I'm pretty sure Francis, he's gonna be looking for the knockout in the first 2 rounds, but a big fight for him, so he should be patient in this fight. He shouldn't be overzealous and look for the knockout too much, because I think if he does that and Stipe is over to take it in the deep water, he might drown him. Because it's still a lot of questions about Francis. We haven't seen him go past 2 rounds in a fight. So it'll be interesting to see if Stipe can drag the fight out that long, or it's going to be another knockout for Francis. For my prediction, I am gonna go with Francis Ngannou by knockout, first round. I'm predicting a first round knockout in this fight. Stipe, I don't think he, in his interviews and whatnot, in his lead up, I don't think he realizes the danger of Francis Ngannou. I think he's gonna try to run through him like he has like his last three opponents. I think he's gonna try to run through him, and I think that's gonna be a big mistake. So yeah, I think Francis is gonna win by knockout, and he's gonna be the new king of the heavyweight division. So yeah, y'all can tell me what y'all think. Like, comment, subscribe if y'all want to. I'm doing all the UFC fight cards. Peace and salute.